Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Celebrating Differences. I'm your co-host, Preston, or as my wife calls me, Tyree. Celebrating Differences presents discussions with interesting people, who they are, how they got here, and what they're doing to make the world a better place for themselves and for the rest of us. Celebrating Differences is an initiative of WAAO, a 501c3 nonprofit chartered to foster community. WAAO, WAAO, stands for We Are All One. And our discussions on this podcast focus on how each one of us, in our own unique way, fits into the universal whole. We are all one. Wow.
To get to that place where I was like, okay, well, this is how you're gonna have to live your life now. Like, figure out a way to love yourself. So,
hello, and welcome to episode 98 of the podcast Celebrating Differences, where we talk to interesting people. Today we talked with Andrew Doobay. Andrew's brand is the Gay Real Estate Agent. When I saw that brand and that logo, I figured we probably had to talk to him and find out more about Andrew Doobay. So we're here with Andrew Doobay, not Scooby Dooby.
oh, that's been a nickname of mine.
Yeah, I bet it has, Andrew Doobay. And the reason I asked Andrew to come on the podcast Celebrating Differences is I got a door hanger on my door one day, and it said the Gay Real Estate Agent. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I said, I've got to talk to this guy. Anybody that can do that. So I go online, and there you are, the Gay Real Estate Agent. You make a statement on your website that I would question. You say you are the most, what is it? Not prolific, but the most something real estate agent.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of exaggeration.
For sure.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Much of
most
my marketing
productive or something.
Yeah. Much of my marketing is a bit of an exaggeration.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your name?
My name is Andrew Doobay. I'm a realtor here in Austin, Texas. Okay. I've moved here in 2019 and picked up the career. Just kind of needed just a jump start in life. Wanted to start chapter 3, I call it, kind of like.
Oh, well, let's talk about all the chapters.
Yeah. So yeah, I just needed a new chapter. So I came here for a week. I had heard a lot about the city. Fell in love with it immediately, and then met a guy at a bar who had just passed his real estate exam, and we chatted for 45 minutes, and immediately it just kind of like struck a light bulb. I was like, okay, I think I have all the skill sets I think that you need to be one. I didn't want to work for anybody again. I wanted to work for myself, and I have all this creativity inside of me, and then I was like, I feel like I can tap into that to like put myself out there. So I just had all these sort of like ideas from the jump, and I was like, I really feel like I can do this. So I lived in Los Angeles at the time. I called my landlord, put my 30-day notice in, sold everything that I had owned, and just drove over, and here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Roughly 5 years ago. How's it working for you?
It was the best decision of my life.
All right.
Oh yeah, all around, like moving to Austin, just the people that I've met here and the opportunities that it's given me. And to be honest, I didn't know much about real estate 5 years ago, and I didn't know about Tesla moving here. I didn't know about all the development or any of that stuff. So everything really did just end up falling into place when it should have, kind of thing. So I haven't really found much of a struggle. I'm a hard worker, so like, that carries me a lot. But with that, I haven't found myself struggling as much. It's been quite an ascent.
Sometimes the world does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, right when you need it to. So everything about it has really wound up beyond what I was anticipating. So. Okay.
So you came here from California. Where did you start? Where were you born?
Born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, or about an hour outside Toronto, Ontario. Okay. So my parents...
what year?
1984.
1984, okay.
1984. My parents are Guyanese, so we're Indian by heritage, but they were born in the West Indies, so next to Barbados and Trinidad.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're Indo-Caribbean, so we're like Indian by heritage, but we're like Caribbean cultured.
Okay.
And then my parents met and married in England, and then they were deciding where they wanted to have children. So my mom had a brother in Toronto, my dad had a sister in New York, and they applied for status in both countries. The Canadian application came through like within a month, so they were like, we're moving to Canada. And then the American application took 22 years to process. So out of the blue in the year 2000, we got green cards. So that's the only reason why I was able to move to the United States. So that's been my journey to get to the United States.
There you go, yeah.
But no, I had a great upbringing in Toronto. Was, very, very sort of like sheltered, kind of like held close to my mother's chest. Didn't really have a lot of friends in school. So kind of isolated, but very, very nurturing family environment. And then my mother passed away, unfortunately, when I was 16 from leukemia. So my family environment kind of, dissipated a little bit after that. And then I went to the University of Toronto and had a lovely time there. But then I had this green card that was going to expire if I didn't move. And so that was sort of my journey. I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was a kid. Hollywood was always, part of my sort of vision, but without really sort of a clear cut sort of like what I really wanted to do. But because I had this green card, I was like,
So what did you study?
I studied political science.
Okay.
Yeah. When my mind,
Let's make that step.
in my mind, I was like, okay, well, University of Toronto didn't have a good film school.
Okay.
So I was like, well, maybe I should get a degree in something. I was trying to be mindful. I was like, if Hollywood doesn't work out, political science is a degree that it's malleable. You can go into a lot of things after that. So I was like, okay, I was horrible at it. Like I barely graduated. Not very good with politics or just that whole field. But
that's a different world. Politics
it's a whole
is
different world.
Whole different
world.
science.
I'm a creative. I'm not intelligent in that way. I'm intelligent in a lot of other ways. But so I got that degree and then moved to Los Angeles and ran the gamut there for 13 years. And looking back now, I would say that, it really took me the journey to realize this, but I didn't have the faculties to really navigate that industry.
You're talking about the film industry.
The film industry, the entertainment industry, let's say.
Okay.
Like, 'cause I feel like the music industry is sort of like very similar, but it's very cutthroat. Looking back, like I could notice myself getting opportunities along the way, but I would get in my own way. Like I had so much anxiety. Like I did not have the confidence in myself to navigate networking events. There's a lot of like opportunities where you just really have to go into a room and shake someone's hand and be like, "Hey, I'm Andrew. Who are you?"
Yeah.
And then follow up with those people. Kind of similar tenets to real estate as well, but I didn't have that sort of confidence in myself to be doing that. So I wrote and directed and produced some short films. I got them into local film festivals. I learned a lot from that, but the main takeaway from that is if you're not getting them into like Tribeca, Sundance, the things that most people know about, not a lot of people are attending those those mini festivals. So I wasn't really like getting ahead that way. And then all along this whole journey, I'm a closeted homosexual. So I didn't come out until I was 28 years old.
Okay.
So around 2012.
Back up.
Yes.
When did you make that decision? When did you understand that you were homosexual?
Teenager.
That's tough.
Oh yeah. To hold it in, yes. And I feel like my mother's passing kind of like locked it in even further, because now there was all this trauma to kind of like deal with. And she was probably the person that would have, she asked me before she passed away. Like she knew, but and largely my whole surroundings around that weren't really semi-homophobic. It was homophobic, but not so overtly homophobic that like people were like putting me down all the time, but just enough that like I didn't really feel like I had a tribe outside of her to lean on. So when she passed away, I remember myself making a decision that I was always going to keep it under lock and key. Nobody was ever going to find out, and I lived my life in a calculated way that whatever story I told this person was now never going to meet that person, and that person was going to be told something else, and that person was not going to know this person, and then it's just like this mastery of compartmentalization. It's exhausting. Yeah. Looking back, I'm like, I can't believe
You managed it.
I managed it for so long too. But eventually, it broke me down. That's what. And I came out because, to be perfectly honest, I had a substance abuse problem, and nobody understood why, and because nobody understood what I was holding in. So, but I knew that it was going to eventually kill me if I didn't say anything. So, when I started to tell people, like outside of my father, who didn't have a crazy problem with it, but he's traditional and Indian. So outside of that, nobody had an issue. And I remember everybody like having a similar statement saying, like, don't you feel so much better? Like, it's out there now. Like, nobody cares. Like, don't you feel so much better? But really, like, I hadn't dealt with anything yet. I was just telling people because I had this drug problem that I needed to tell people. Okay. And then now everybody's finding out about this thing that I had, I hated myself for it. And now So what do I do with that? So my identity crisis just kind of like took me down a down spiral. My drug usage got worse. Unfortunately, tried to kill myself. But through that process, it just allowed me to luckily reach a point where I wasn't successful. But to get to that place where I was like, okay, well, this is how you're gonna have to live your life now. Like, figure out a way to love yourself. So I would say it was about a 2-year process from the point, maybe a 3-year process from the point that I started to tell people in 2012 to about 2015, where I just reached the other side where I'm living the life that I'm living right now, where like, okay, like everything's fine. Like I love myself. Like I have access to my best versions of myself for the first time in my life. And then you just kind of look back and you're like, I can't believe I did that to myself for so long. And it's because I didn't tell a single person.
Okay.
If I just told a few friends or had some kind of secret life, I wasn't even I didn't have a secret boyfriend. I had nothing. It was just this asexual lifestyle where you just kind of hoping for the best that you were going to live that way your whole life. So yeah, it's everybody has their own different journey with coming out. But yeah, unfortunately, I wish it was a happier story, but
just think of what we do in our society when you have to use a term like coming out.
Yeah.
Coming out from what?
Exactly.
Coming out into what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really warms my heart now that I can look at society and I can see representation everywhere for all different, it's not just gay men, it's just for every part of the rainbow. There's representation everywhere. And it can definitely improve still, but I have a gay nephew. My sister has two children, and one of them's 14 now, and when he was 12 years old, he came out to me.
Wow.
Which I thought was so mind-blowing compared to how I grew up.
Yeah. Well, I hope that the world is changing.
It is.
I was born during World War II. Okay, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I grew up in rural Louisiana.
How's that?
We didn't even use the word gay in those days. It was queer.
Yeah.
And it was against the Catholic Church. It was against, it was against everything.
Yeah.
And that's where I grew up. And since that time, the deity or whatever you believe in has been putting stuff in my face. My wife's daughter's married to a woman. Mm-hmm. One of my grandchildren came to their father and said, I'm not sure who I am. I want to be they.
Yeah. Oh.
And thank goodness my son says, how can we help?
I love that. And
they changed their name to Icarus and graduated from university as Icarus Tyree. They, And it's hard for me. You can hear me hesitating because I'm still having trouble getting to they. But
I am as well, to be honest.
That is, I said, the deity just keep pushing my face and saying, we're all one.
Yeah.
We're all different.
Yeah.
We're all special,
yes.
But we're all one.
Yeah.
It's a big, it's a big family.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the podcast is all about.
And I love the title of the podcast. Yeah, I love that you titled it that.
And it gets some interesting. We were sitting in an airport one time, and this woman's sitting there, and she says, "You going to Hawaii?" And I said, "Mm-hmm." "Oh yeah, that flight over there is going to Hawaii. We're going to Austin." She says, "Oh well," and we got talking. I told her about this, and she says, "Oh, that's so wonderful." I said, okay. She says, and she's Polynesian.
Yeah.
And somebody in the airport got mad at her because she wouldn't speak Spanish to them. I don't speak Spanish. And it's like, why get mad? Anyway.
Yeah.
So the vision of our nonprofit, which is WAAO, We Are All One,
Yeah.
is that we are one. We are unique.
Yes.
But we are part of the whole, and the whole wouldn't be the same without us.
Exactly.
Here we
We're
are.
all of us unique individuals in it.
So, on that, we've been talking about your difference.
Yeah.
How has that difference helped you succeed at what you want to be?
I mean, I think that's a perfect parlay into like the brand that I created for real estate, and that's part of the reason why I created it, was everything that I kind of described just now in terms of my journey to get to a place of self-love. Creating the brand in real estate of the gay real estate agent was sort of me putting the stamp. I know, and I reckon, like, I was supposed to be shticky. It was supposed to be funny and like sort of tongue in cheek and sort of get people's attention in that way.
In Austin, Texas?
I know. Oh, and trust me, like moving here with
Austin is a lot better than some other places in Texas.
Totally,
Yes.
totally. But that was one of my first thoughts too. I was like, "Is this gonna fly in Texas?" I didn't know much about Austin, but as soon as I told a few people, they were like, "Oh yeah, everyone like it's gonna be fine here." But when I thought of it, I was like, "This is a perfect way for me personally to sort of like, it's almost like a full circle moment. Like I've had this whole journey where I held so much in, and what a beautiful way for me to celebrate the work that I put into myself and the fact that I can live just the most authentically, that it's almost like a dream that I had, that like one day I could live this way. And like what better stamp than to now make this my brand for my business, for it, like, which is going to be my entire life now, which is building this business up.
It's going to be hard to hide it from
Totally. But how wild is it to go from that place of like hiding it for almost 3 decades
not
to
only
now
hiding it, but it was beating you up so much.
Oh,
you
yeah.
were into drugs, you were into potential suicide,
Oh,
all
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
To be able to step out and walk across the street confidently and, come up the stairs and say, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah.
And,
And literally like pivot people to this phrase that I've created for myself. Like it's never lost on me that I get to do that, and the reason why I did it in the first place, and the fact that how I can continue to get to do it, and how it resonated with so many people as well. It was something that immediately when I put it out there, like I got so much positive feedback about it. Like again, beyond my wildest dreams, that it kind of worked out the way that it did, because it was a bit of a roll of the dice as well. But luckily, it's almost like my career. Like it's just all gone in this direction that I couldn't even have imagined the trajectory sort of like going the way that it did so quickly.
So you're 40?
40 in May.
40 in May?
Yeah.
Okay, so half my age.
Half as wise. I'm sure I can learn a lot from you.
Well, and that's another part of this celebrating differences is I can either judge you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's this immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
gay immigrant.
Yeah.
And
Gay minority immigrant.
I don't know anything about you when I do that. As soon as I judge you like that,
Yeah.
it shut me off from learning who you are.
Yeah.
And learning about myself in the way I react to you.
Yeah.
And so that's the vision, is curiosity.
Yeah. And I love that.
And you can teach me a lot. You're half my age, but you've been through stuff that the old boy from Louisiana never got a chance to play in.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I love real estate as well, is because like this is a kind of a blanket statement about the business, but I find real estate to be about meeting as many people as possible, and then just reminding them that you are around or exist. And,
I'm an agent.
Exactly. No.
Okay.
Hopefully you can add value and do more, but that tenet like forces me to then meet as many people as possible and have conversations with them, and not about real estate, just about life. And there's a beauty in being able to just like hear people's stories about their lives. It's kind of part of my job, and I love that because I get exposed to so many different perspectives on life, so many different stories, so many different things that make me more wise of a human being, just from being exposed to all these people. So I love that. That's almost like a tenet to my job. So when you said like I would love you to come on the podcast, I would love to. Not because I want to hear myself talk, because it allows me to get to know someone else and like hear their perspective on life, and from someone who's also like very open minded as well. You know.
Yeah, there've been times.
I believe that.
I laugh and say, when I went to high school, I was racist, sexist, and homophobic, and the deity's been throwing it in my face ever since. Wow. Get over it.
It seems like you've come a long way since then.
Well, you've lived this long, and you've got to.
Yeah.
You've got to.
Yeah.
It's part of the living experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But the vision that we're getting to, and we've been married. My wife and I've been married 6 years. My first wife passed away some time ago.
Sorry to hear.
And she brought it into my life. She's been thinking of this. She wrote a book called Self-Love as Spiritual Practice. Yes. And really brought this vision of we are all one. I'm an engineer. Come on. Don't give me all that
Not here
stuff.
for any of that.
Yeah. And so it's been a real journey.
I bet.
For me to learn about how I can make that shift over to I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Because engineers, are taught that. But I can find out a lot. I just did a podcast with the 40-something woman who'd just been handed the managing directorship of her company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She'd been with the company about 3 years, and she's the perfect person for it, by the way. And they told her, we always had you on the list.
Yeah.
But it's in a male-dominated world.
Yeah.
This is an industry that is just totally male-dominated. And she said, but, it's the bicycle company WAAO here in town.
Right.
And she says, we sell kids' bikes. Who buys kids' bikes? It's not the daddies. It's mostly the mommies.
Really?
Well, they certainly do make the decisions.
Yeah, they do.
And I can see it in the showroom, and then a couple comes in, the dad is all ready to buy the bike for the kid, and you watch him move his color, and,
Yeah.
all of that as the wife talks to him. Okay, got you.
Mother ultimately makes the decision.
It certainly influences it.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at an industry that's selling bikes to kids, yeah, you've got to look at the customer experience from the mother's point of view.
Yeah.
And so who better to do that than a mother?
Yeah.
So a very, very accomplished, very, very sharp mother.
And let me ask you, where are you finding all your subjects for podcasts?
I just run into people.
Yeah.
I've got a long history in the bicycle industry, so it's one of the things I do is touch on those.
Right.
Here's a person I rode bikes with in Arkansas, and they now live in Spain.
Wow.
Why did you do that? Well, I wanted to give up my car, and I could do it by go to Alicante, Spain. I can give up my car and get around fine on bike and transit.
Yeah.
Okay, how'd you make that decision? He was in the Department of Transportation for Arkansas. Wow.
Right.
So it's those kind of just interesting people that we talk to, and we meet them every day.
Yeah.
Walk into this grocery store, I'm standing here, there's this woman, she's got to be 6'6" plus. And she's probably not my age, but she's, and I just couldn't help it. I went over and said, we do a podcast called Celebrating Differences, and you've lived with your differences for a long time, and I'd like to talk about them. And she thought I was crazy, I said, then she got it and said, yeah, I think we can talk.
She came?
And she lives here in the neighborhood. And
oh, nice.
We're slowly working towards that.
Nice.
A lot of people just don't want to open up on
audio. Yeah.
Or you going to record this? Yes, I'm going to. And that's, I guess it doesn't surprise me a lot. It's
depends on the person.
And the people that, the people I talk to, I expect them, but oh no, that's not my thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I get it. yeah, I can't, like, I'm an open book, but I can't expect everyone to be that way.
But yeah, and that's part of the learning process.
Yeah.
You know, you mean everybody's not like me?
Yeah.
No, they're not. Yeah.
I've never found the harm in sharing information about my life. When people are like, I would always stay private, like my dad's always like, don't share too much, be private. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell people like the dollar amount in my bank account, like how to access it, but I don't feel like any issue that I've gone through can really harm me. And anybody that has an issue with something that has happened in my life in my past probably isn't someone that I want to have around me in my circle anyways. So it almost like weeds out, you know, people that I probably wouldn't have want to have around me in the first place.
Yeah, just saying we are all one.
Yeah.
When I say that, what do you hear?
We are all one. Unity. The human race. We are. If we could just celebrate each other's differences more, we could all live in this unified society. But that divide is what will prevent that till we can figure that out.
And I've gotten some pushback on it because I'm an old white guy.
Yeah.
I get pushback from people of color.
Right.
So you haven't lived my life. No, but I'd like to learn about it.
Yeah.
You know, no, I haven't. And you're absolutely right. There's no way I could know what you know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't hate you because of
yeah,
your
but
color.
but what else could you expect from people?
Well, absolutely.
I can never have the experience that a black person has lived in the same way I can't have the experience that a white person has lived in, and whether that's a better experience, a more negative experience, whatever the experience may be, we are all living our own individual experiences. So all we can do is be an ear to listen to the other experiences to inform us of society and like what exists out there. But how do we do that if we don't listen to each other and allow each other to listen to each other? So it's a shame, you know, that some people would react to that and wouldn't allow you the opportunity to listen to their story.
But I can see where they come from.
I can see where they come from as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can totally see where they come from. It's just a shame. I just feel like it's a shame that we can't have this perspective where it's like, okay, like I have had a different experience from you, but let me tell you what my experience is so you can become more aware. I wish that was more of a thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, that's the theme right here. Yeah, we got that. So,
someone not argued with me, but gave me a perspective of a different point of view that, because in Canada, there was 13 grades to high school up until a certain point, and I was the last year to have, like, they basically abolished it. So like the 13th grades and the 12th graders all had to graduate together. It was a really rough year to get into universities.
Wow.
But I would look back and like tell people I was like I literally wasted a year of my life. Like if they just made that decision 1 year prior, then I wouldn't have had to do it. Yeah. And then someone kind of wisely told me that like, but would you really been ready to like do much with your life that year sooner? And I was like, to be honest, I was a child. Like I was pretty like, after my mom passed away, like I was pretty, I wouldn't say immature, but like I just hadn't developed probably as quickly as I would have had she been around. Yeah. So I kind of like stayed at like 16 years old for a bit, and I was like, you know what? It probably didn't waste any time. It probably did allow me to kind of like grow at the pace that I was gonna grow at. So when I hear like, oh, graduated at 19, like got to the workforce, like I couldn't have imagined that I would have been very successful at that age. And all the more power to him for doing that. But I think everybody in their own time, I guess. But yeah, looking back now, I have a different perspective. That like, you know what, maybe everything kind of did shake out. Yeah. When it should have. Like even real estate, I don't think that I would have been as successful as quickly as I was, because I probably would have had way too much fear, way too much anxiety, way too much insecurity in my 20s to do it. It just wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have said yes to this podcast. You know, like I just wouldn't have had enough gusto to really like make it work. So I think everything really does happen in its own time.
And when we're ready.
Yeah, I was ready for this. So, yeah.
So what are you doing to make the rest of your life better?
Currently, balance.
What does that mean?
Balance to me...
I'm assuming that's not yoga.
I know, right? Balance to me means, I would say getting this career going. It can be very involving, and depending on your level of entrepreneurship, or sort of drive to want to make it work, you could really make it your entire existence. And I think that was sort of the thing that I allowed to take over my life for a couple of years. And I reaped some benefits from it. I got things going a lot quicker than maybe I would have expected to. But when I moved to Austin, I got into my first relationship that I've ever been in. Because when I came out in Los Angeles, I would say like 2015's when I got to a good place, and I left in 2019. But in those in-between years, I wasn't like really... By the way, LA is a very tough city to date in, for one. But two, I don't know, like I was 30-something years old in my early 30s, and I had never dated before. So I lost all those development years. You know, when you're a kid and you're just dating around, I didn't have any of that. So it's almost like I was 16 years old as a 32-year-old trying to make that work. And so I just didn't date anybody. I kind of felt like a shy, 15-year-old in my 30s. So it took me a second to get over that. And part of the reason I wanted to move to a new city was like, I want that for myself. And within a year of moving here, I think I've matched with like a few people on an app, and the first one I went on a date with has now been my partner for 3 years.
Oh, great.
But simultaneously, as I'm getting that sort of, I wouldn't say life achievement, but that partnership that I've always wanted, sort of like this career that I never knew the industry that it was going to land in, but what I kind of wanted in Los Angeles, which is I want to work for myself. I want to like be creative and like have my own thing going on. So I have that just in real estate now, and they're both happening at the same time. It was a lot for me to balance. And I would say like I've had my pratfalls. Like I prioritized my career way too much when I should have been prioritizing this individual. But here it's almost like my first experience with it. So I give myself some grace in that I didn't really know how to manage it. But luckily I met a really great guy.
That's a good word, grace.
Grace, yeah, oh yeah. I give myself, honestly, if you don't give yourself grace, then at least I can spiral if I don't.
Oh yeah.
A lot of negative self-talk, a lot of blame, and it's not necessary because we're all just learning as we go, right? So I recognize that, and I would say balance is what I'm working on the most right now, so that I can have both. I can have both. It's almost like we can have it all. We can.
Yeah, we can.
We can. It just takes some work, and it takes some mindfulness and practice. So balance is what I'm looking at right now, and I'm doing a pretty good job of it right now too. I'm very happy with the way things are going right now. So it's almost like I have everything that I really wanted when I first moved to Austin.
Okay. So the other fun question we like to ask people is, what are you doing to make the world better for the rest of us?
Good question. So I started my own nonprofit as well about a year ago. So part of
That's a national pastime in Austin, by the way.
Starting your own nonprofit? Yeah, I know, right? Gosh, I don't want to seem so like high on my horse or anything that I did it, but I did it for a reason. When I first got into real estate and I was creating this brand, I was mindful over, like I told you, I was mindful over sort of the experience that I had. And when I kind of came out of that, I knew how, it was almost like a shock to me, like that I did that to myself for so long. And I didn't know about any services. There's an organization called the Trevor Project where like kids can call, and it's almost like a suicide prevention hotline. And I'm like, I didn't know about any of these resources that were out there. But I always wanted to take my experience and help other people. I applied to work for the Trevor Project. I was working for organizations in Los Angeles. But when I created this brand, I was like, I know that I can use this. And I was getting, by the way, when I created the brand and I saw the reaction that it was getting, the positive reaction that it was getting, I was like, I know that I can use this to like help my community in some way. And I want to create my own programs to help educate kids, and not necessarily in the mental health sense. That would be great. But now that I know real estate, I was like, I wish that I knew things that I know now about home ownership, about investing, that nobody taught me growing up. I didn't have parents that were teaching me those things. I didn't have friends that were talking to me about these things. And it took me until my 30s to really like I knew investing was smart, obviously. I knew owning a home was like a smart financial decision, but to the degree that it was, and like how important it is for retirement, for so many things. And I would love to create programs to teach that to LGBTQIA plus youth, to almost give them a leg up that they're probably not getting from other places. But that's just the beginning. Like I want to like use this now to help people in my community in the way that I hope that I would have had exposure or access to, sort of in my journey coming up. So that's at least one way that I want to do it. Having my own nonprofit is sort of just my way to sort of be able to do it my own way, and have control over that. But I would partner with any organization that was already out there to do it. It doesn't have to be like through my own nonprofit, but I would love to. That's my goal, in conjunction with real estate, is to sort of like help as well as make a career out of this as well, if that makes sense. It's not really just about the career, it's about...
You answered the question, what are you doing to make the world better for the rest of us? And you're creating space for people to learn the lessons that you learned the hard way.
Yeah.
And make it a little bit easier for them to learn.
Yeah. And I don't like that I keep referencing the brand, but the brand then also allows me to have more conversations with people that I come across in real estate over gay rights and issues, and I love that as well. Like it's almost like a conversation that I don't necessarily know that would ever really come up had I not. I'm sort of like inviting people to have the conversation with me, just by showing them sort of like Andrew Doobay, the gay real estate agent. So I love that about it.
So is Doobay a common Indian name?
I've come across some, but I wouldn't say it's like the most common. But I'm half Doobay, half Singh, Singh, and Singh is definitely like far more common.
Soon you know about Mueller and the neighborhood.
Yes.
And people say, oh, well, we're all white. And the answer is, we are a majority white.
Yeah.
But if you look at the population numbers, I think we are probably the most diverse neighborhood.
I would believe so
Austin,
too. Yeah.
Because most other neighborhoods will focus on, okay, there's a big white population and a big black population. We got white, black, Muslim. We got more Muslims than we got Episcopalians.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a little bit of everything.
I believe so too.
Not a lot of everything.
No, but enough that I feel like it doesn't just feel all of one, and that's it. And I've noticed that about Mueller as well, which is why the reason why I try and meet so many people trying to drum up business here is because I love Mueller so much. I love the people that I've met here. I love the community. There's something special about it. So I 100% agree.
And it's, that's one of our jobs with the podcast and with our YouTube channel is to talk about Mueller and what Mueller really is and how do we make this the kind of community we want it to be. Yeah. And make sure it's got services for everybody that needs those services.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing you're doing.
Yeah. I love that.
That's the vision, and I'm glad you came and played with us today.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. This is amazing. I love that you're doing this, honestly.
Okay, that finishes up podcast 98, Celebrating Differences. Remember, Celebrating Differences is a part of WAAO.org. WAAO, W-A-A-O, stands for We Are All One. I hope you have a wonderful day.